Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Come Back to Love with Robyn Vogel on Dream Visions 7, and that's me. Hello, everybody. Welcome to my listeners out there. Welcome to Come Back to Love, the radio show where we explore the journeys of healing, connection, and transformation in love and relationships. I'm your host, Robyn Vogel, love and intimacy coach and creator of Heal Your Heart. Join me as I share stories, tools, and insights to help you rewrite your love story, whether it's about overcoming heartbreak, unraveling old patterns, or reigniting the spark in your current relationship. Together, we'll explore how love begins within and expands outward to create meaningful, fulfilling connection with others. You can tune in to Come Back to Love every Thursday at 1 a.m. and 1 p.m. Eastern on Dream Vision 7 Radio Network. Listen online on your mobile device, in your car, or simply ask Alexa to play Dream Vision 7 Radio. In each episode, I welcome incredible guests who bring their unique perspective and expertise to help us dive into topics like self-compassion, healing childhood wounds, and creating the love we desire and deserve. Today, I am thrilled to be joined by a special guest, Maureen Whitehouse. We're going to dive into the powerful narratives that shape our relationships. We're going to look at how to be with the world right now, given everything that's going on in the world right now. And love isn't just about romance. It's about beliefs, experiences, lessons we carry with us, and how they've shaped us to be who we are today. We're going to talk about how these early imprints influence the way we show up in love and relationships, and more importantly, how we can heal and rewrite these stories to create our own experiences and our own reality. And remember, it all starts with self-love and compassion, because the relationship we have with ourselves sets the foundation for everything else. So grab a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, settle in, and join us for this heart-centered, transformational conversation. Let's explore how you can come back to love, starting with the relationship that matters the most, the one you have with yourself. So welcome, Maureen. I'm so happy to have you
Hello.
here today.
Hi, how are you today?
I am really well, and any moment that I get to be with you and your energy is a glorious and miraculous moment. So,
Thank you.
yes, I'm so happy to have you here and to introduce you and bring you to the people who haven't heard you before. I'm sure that some of
Hmm.
our listeners absolutely have, and some of them are brand new to me and also to you. So, how beautiful is that?
Yeah, how great. I love to join you in this space, and I love that you're encapsulating this whole thing, the whole journey, everything about life with as a return to love. Really beautiful. Really
Yeah.
beautiful.
Thank you. So I'll start by sharing with our listeners that I met Maureen Whitehouse. Oh, I don't even know the year now. I'm going to say 2010 because I think that is accurate.
Mhm.
So that was 14 years ago. Something very synchronistic led me to connect with you. I had just had a loss in my life, so I definitely was doing some searching, but I also thought that I was happier than I actually was. And I remember the moment where you asked some very good questions. And when I responded, I realized, wow, I'm not as happy as I think I am. And that
Mhm.
led to a huge journey, many, many years, over 10 years of connecting with you on a weekly basis and really doing the deep work that I required, that my soul really wanted to experience and have, and also really, really deepened my own spiritual journey. So for that, I am forever grateful.
Wow.
The
You
gifts.
said something really important
Mm,
um, that you didn't know you weren't happy. And I think you were happy as far as like the world's terms. A
mm,
lot of people have a very, we don't realize that through time as we mature, the bar gets lowered lower and lower on what we tolerate and what we feel is happy.
mm.
And when we're infinitely capable of being ecstatically happy, and you realize, and that opens up to you, it's a revelation to know how happy and peaceful and contented we can actually be.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I know we're going to move into this topic of like today's world, and that that's so important what you said, because to say it in slightly different words, it's like there's been like a modern day standard of happy, right? Like get married, have a job, have, 2.5 kids, whatever it looks like and however it was dictated or passed on to you from family and society and culture, cultural values. And
Right.
that's that's not true happiness.
Right. And you can feel right now that we're in a place where the things are shifting pretty dramatically. There's a planetary shift happening. And I think it's because for so long people were taught and conditioned to refer outward to find their happiness or to gauge their happiness. And finally, people are finding that that outward orientation can be deafening at times because there's so much a cacophony of information coming in. You don't really know how to source things the way that they were. We had trusted voices in quotes in the past. Now there are so many voices coming from every angle. And then we show up to this experience where if you are outwardly motivated and outwardly focused, there's a lot going on all the time. And our bandwidth has just gotten broader and broader and broader. Now it feels like this planetary shift is actually an individual shift that's happening collectively, where people are realizing, I got to focus on me. I got to, not in a self-centered way, in a more aware and purposeful and peaceful way. It's just a new orientation where how do I show up to this? There's a lens on this that I bring my own individual lens to this experience. And what is my personal lens focused on right now so that I can navigate all that good, bad, ugly contrast of things out there and choose what it is that I bring into my own individual orbit.
Mm. So it sounds like you're saying actually that that's the invitation that's out there, if I'm hearing you right. Because,
Yeah.
because there is so much going on in the world right now. And I
Mhm.
know we're recording a little ahead of this live date on the radio. And right now we have fires happening in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And when this airs, they'll have happened just a week or two earlier.
Mhm.
And this is what's happening right now, along with many, many other things that are happening in the world, all over the world.
Yeah.
So,
And
yeah.
that's so devastating on so many levels for people personally. I know some people, I have friends in LA, and so I have a closer um, insight into that. But at the same time, that's just a small part of the cacophony of chaos
Right,
in the world right now.
right.
And it is interesting that when we get that crescendo, and it's almost the same as loud, loud, loud music, you realize, wait a minute, I got to cover my ears. And what do you do at that point? It's not about being focused out there. You come inside to be able to realize there are a couple of things we have to ask ourselves as we navigate life right now. Does this personally feel good to me? And what personally feels good to me, like to really know that before you move into situations, and what personally doesn't feel good to me. Like to really sit down in quiet, in meditation, some morning when you're just having quality time and space, sipping your tea or just enjoying a little bit more spaciousness. And then make a list, make a literal list. What feels personally good and enriching to me? And what doesn't feel good and enriching to me. This isn't about pouring pink paint on things. This is about really discerning. We live in this, we'll always, our whole lives long, live in a world of contrasts and live in a world that has this and that and good and bad and awful and terrific. But if we don't know personally what we resonate with, what makes our heart sing, on the one side of the list. What do we really, really love? And what is not for us? What just doesn't resonate with us? And that's not being judgmental. That's being discerning about what you call to yourself in life and what you actually pay attention to out there.
Right, right. So, right. So in the comeback to love world, we talk about heavy and light, and you're saying the same thing, like what feels good, what feels light is in alignment with our beings, what feels heavy energetically or not good isn't in
Mhm.
alignment. And I'm hearing kind of two different things. One is that as a practice in our lives, period, like to
Mhm.
engage with what feels good, what feels light, what's in alignment for us, but also this piece of how we navigate all of the, like you said, chaos and noise
Right.
and real, perhaps, things that are going on in the world, seemingly real, I guess we could say, um,
Mhm.
things that are going on in the world, and where we choose to put our focus, attention, and energy. Because so many people are feeling weighed down by the stress, by the worry, by the concern, and that's where their energy is focused. So it
Mm.
sounds like you're suggesting a strategy to deal with that.
Yeah. Okay. So as you know, I have a blanket kind of perspective on all of this that you are a miracle. Each and every one of us is a miracle. We knew it the day we were born. We came to life with our first breath. Everyone was in awe and not a dry eye in the room. And we know that this humanity coming to this experience is just wow, an amazing thing. But then along the way, we forget our miraculous nature. We forget how astounding it is to be in this human form that breathes on its own and has this capacity to do so many things that we are not micromanaging on a daily basis, but that happen regardless. But our true miraculous nature is beyond the body. It's what came in with our first breath and it leaves with our last. It animates this form. And so this is more of the mundane, this world that we can touch and taste and feel with our five senses. But then there's this part of us that's invisible and doesn't come to life until we bring it. And very resonant with your community, it's the essence of who we truly are, which is love, unconditioned love, no condition that makes us not be the love that we are.
Mm.
And so that includes horrific circumstances like your entire home and everything you have being burned in a fire.
Mm.
I know this is a really big stretch, but I'm going to say it. It's the mantra that I give my community. I don't know what this is, but I love it. Because in life, in an eternal experience of life, as this miraculous being that comes into this world with your first breath but leaves with your last, there's an eternal iteration going on that we call evolution. And so we'll always have the next thing after a catastrophic event. There'll always be the cleanup, and then there'll be the how did I not know that that would make me stronger? And how did I not know that I'm more resourceful or creative? It's if we can align with our miraculous nature, it's more like every chaos turns into a creation that we recognize our creative capacity. That's our true miraculous nature, is our capacity to create, to iterate, to evolve. Yeah.
Wow. Deep breath, letting that land, inviting our
Yeah.
listeners to let that land.
And it doesn't mean that I'm not compassionate, that I get into, willingly for all these years, for over 25 years now in counseling people in their life's most challenging times. This is not something that I skirt. I head into all kinds of venues, prisons and schools where kids are killing each other and places that are really rough and frontline challenges on the planet. And I will tell you, there's never been a place that I haven't found the miraculous. There's never, ever been a place where the final say is the drama. We can get captivated, and we can get kind of caught up on sometimes sidetracks through what people are calling trauma and drama. But that's never the reason that we are experiencing these things. I just want to say something about why I say what I say and the work that I do with people in their life's most challenging times. Why I have the authority to do that is because I had a near-death experience wherein I saw all of the most problematic, painful times of my life, that life revision.
Mm,
In that life revision, where I saw all of my most painful experiences, I heard, felt in like a rolling, thunderous, benevolent chuckle. Now you see how I see. Now you see how I see. Now you see how I see. And what I saw was that I came to a world, all of us come to this world that is like a dream compared to our eternal nature. And we dream it in a way personalized for every one of us to awaken us to our divine nature, to our ultimate infinite nature. And I saw the reason why it was so funny, in quotes, to watch the chaos and pain of my life was because I saw you forgot you were divine. Here's where you forgot you were divine. Here's where you forgot you were divine. Here's where you forgot that you're divine. This is a the problem you have is this small compared to the omnipotence of who you are, no matter what problem it is. And I'm telling you, easy for me to viscerally experience this every time I talk about it as knowing this is reality for us. Because what happened on the heels of that, when I came back into my life and then saw the efficacy of that revelation, that this is all a miracle in the making.
mm,
Everything is either a miracle or a miracle in the making.
mm.
And so, even the fires in Los Angeles, if I were personally to go there now as someone on the front lines counseling, it's not that I'm dismissive and it's not that I'm not compassionate, but everyone needs a window into sanity in those times to be able to see there's an and then there's this. Life never is finite. Even death isn't finite. That's just walking into another experience, another room. But if we see it as finite, that's when all the problems arrive. We
Mm,
don't see our resourceful nature. We don't see our creative capacity. We don't see that we are a miracle and
mm.
that everything is a miracle in the making.
Wow, beautiful. Beautiful. I think we're going to go to a commercial break and come right back to this exact place,
Okay,
the
great.
miraculous. Wow,
Great.
amazing. Okay, we're back with Maureen Whitehouse, who is a um, beautiful spiritual teacher, has been working with thousands of people over many years, supporting us in creating miracles in the world and knowing that we are the miraculous and the divine. And you were just saying such an important piece around how to really to know ourselves in a much greater context than we do, along with knowing and perceiving and being with events that happen in the world and having perspective that they are not only a small piece, but sort of part of evolution and
Mm.
part of the miraculous. And so important what you're saying. And just putting some of my language in there for a moment, like when we're in the finite and we're in a conclusion about something with like a period at the end of the sentence, like this is devastating or this is, you know, a traumatic
Anything
event
that
that happened.
signals I'm not,
Yeah,
anything that people are saying I'm not
right,
capable, I can't, I want,
right.
and the minute that we say that, we move into that perspective that everyone's familiar with, the ego, the voice of separation. It
Mhm.
separates us from our divinity. And let me clarify what divinity is. It's your utmost omnipotent, genius, brilliant, creative self. If
Mm.
you have that, and and that's inherent in each and every one of us, that's the miracle that you were born to be. If you own it, then everything looks like the material or the fodder or the things that you are able to create with. And I will tell you, even in the midst of the most chaotic times, you hear it all the time about someone, stories about someone on the front lines of a battlefield, and all of a sudden there's too much going on that it's sensory overload to the point that they step out. They have an out of body experience, or they find themselves in an altered state of reality where everything becomes bigger, larger, more perfect, more beautiful. And I will tell you, on the heels of that experience, the near-death experience I had, the other thing I came away with was, first of all, my God, I know nothing compared to what I thought I knew, because there's so much going on here for everyone. I'm going to emphasize that word for.
Mm.
This experience is for us, not happening to us. And when you realize it's happening for you as this amazingly orchestrated dream that we all came to awaken from, that each individual's own specific preferences for awakening are being addressed. So, so think about it. Now, this might be a little challenging to hear, but so I've heard some of the stories of some of the homes that have been just completely decimated. And right before this fire, I had heard some of these celebrities that have gotten affected talking about their homes. And they were talking about, mini palaces, the way that they had set them up in Malibu and in places that were on the ocean, seeing images of these homes that were like out of
Mm.
unbelievable spreads in magazines,
Beautiful.
and talking about their lives and being happy oriented, happy like you spoke about in the beginning, that if things are going well on earth, we think we're happy. And they were talking about it in a way that anyone would envy because of what they have and the resources they have to live this perfect life that they've set up and artfully, beautifully. These are artists, people who are in that world are artists. So they have gorgeous, beautiful tastes and resources to be able to do things impeccably, as beautiful as they can be on planet Earth, not in the middle of Palestine being bombed, where people are typically living in very different circumstances. And yet, look at those two things going on at the same time,
Mm.
where people in other parts of the world, Israel and Palestine, are bombarding each other with not love thoughts. We're returning to love here. What works, what doesn't? Ultimately, love is going to win. That's the good news here, folks. Love is always going to win. In A Course in Miracles beginning line, only love is real. Nothing real can be threatened. Herein lies the peace of God. That's the truth. That's the truth. Only love is real. So going back to the circumstances in these beautiful Hollywood homes and places that were in the hills and places that have been really decimated now, again, I have an absolute compassionate heart for things. Not only is it the stuff and the beauty, it's the memoirs and the beautiful little things that people have and collect through life that they know are a piece of their heart. If you look at this as an opportunity to awaken, and you've just lost everything that you held dear, now there's a new shift that happens. That what do you find is still there and available, even when everything else is gone? Your inner being, your true self. It's what you came into this planet with. It's you came here on your first breath and you leave with your last breath. That spirit of you is still breathing you. Everyone's being animated by that spirit. So that's the eternal nature of you. You're going to go through lots of scenarios, lots of iterations of being in a form and being surrounded by all kinds of things, good, bad, and different. But where do you find that consistency of love,
Mm.
of power, of fortitude, of all the things that really make it much, much easier to traverse life on this planet?
Yeah. Mm. So
So, do
many.
you have any personal questions about
Well,
that? Because I know for your listeners, because I
yeah,
know
I do.
that's hard to hear
Right.
and not say, but that's not living in the trenches with that. I
Hmm.
have lived in the trenches with people in this very circumstance,
Hmm.
and there's only one way out, up. If you think about tomorrow and the tomorrow and tomorrow and everything just burned it down in your life, you have to get up and have this mile high view of the bigger, and the more tragic it is, the higher the perspective has to be, infinite.
Yes, absolutely true.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I have a question that I'm just imagining my listeners are asking, some of them, and also questions that I had years ago, and also what I'm hearing from, right, from my listeners, from people I work with.
Mhm.
It all sounds good, they might say. And
Right.
somebody said to me recently, it all sounds good, but how do I start opening myself up to this perspective?
Okay. So it happens in the moment. We always hear about the power of presence and the power of being in this moment now. And so, if you personally, so I'm going to give 5 steps to be able to do this on a very practical level so that this would work if you were in a war zone. This will work if you're in your own personal experience of some kind of hard, challenging, even tragic experience. This will work if you were in the middle of having something like your home being destroyed in a fire.
Mm.
So, first step, show up. Most of us think we're showing up, but listen to the thoughts in your mind, showing up with the cacophony of I'm not, I can't, I won't, and feeling the same limitations and limiting beliefs. That's not really showing up. Number one, show up with your true self. The true self always is in the mode where it knows I am.
Mm.
I am. So it doesn't finish the sentence, I am. I am the solution. I am the peace. I am the light. I am the love. I am the creator that can come into this and move the needle and change and shift this. Even if at first it's just a perception shift, I am. So you're showing up and you're paying attention with all 5 senses. That's one of the things that happens automatically in something like a fire. You are paying attention. You
Mm.
have to know how to get out of there. You have to know what you are going to grab out of the home before you leave. You are paying attention with a capacity. If you use all 5 senses at the same time, in especially in circumstances that are challenging, then it catapults us into our sixth sense. And then we are in a place where we have that expanded capacity. We navigate differently. We just move beyond this limiting idea of I'm a small body and a small mind. We
Mm.
move into a heart space that's more embracing and has more capacity. So show up, pay attention mindfully on purpose. And the next one's harder.
Mm.
Love it. Love it.
Mm.
Love is powerful. Love is not this, I'm sure you speak about this and your community is aware of this, that we label love as something that feels nice and soft and beautiful. And we have more of a tendency to think of it as the hallmark kind of love. No, love is vastly powerful and capable. It is the wind in the sails. It is the thing that helps and compels us to get up and out of things when there's no hope. It is the powerful energy within us that came from the divine. It's our divinity itself. So we are that love. When we say I am, the only valid word you could use is love or divine, same thing. It's your utmost capacity. So show up, pay attention, love it. I have a mantra that I tell people in my community. I don't know what this is, but I love it. If you show up to your home devastated and you know what it is, this is devastated, this is my home, then all of a sudden you're weakened by that sadness, by that pain, by that perception. If you say, I don't know what this is, but I love it, and I know that's really, really hard to hear right now. What
Mm,
happens is the love that you are kicks in, and not knowing what it is, then you can reassess it and move it and navigate the next moment and the next moment and the next moment within it with presence, with that capability to say, my limited mind would say it's this, but there's a vaster perception here. If this were happening for me, why? And then not being, you know, again, pour paint on it and make it all fluffy or nice. Why would this happen for me personally? Why am I
mm,
strong enough to bear this?
mm,
What do I have that this brings a massive lesson to me that I could bring to the world, that I could live out loud, that I could engage with for the rest of my life, that makes my life superior instead of just limited and focused on, fun or cushy circumstances that might have limited me in my life's purpose. What if I came here for more? Show
mm,
up, pay attention, love it. And then this one's another hard one. It's the key to awakening and enlightenment. If you can do this, then you're gonna wake up in this lifetime. No judgment, no guilt. Let go of all judgment. Think about it, your home just burned. You're judging, you want to project all over the place. You want to they didn't do enough. I could have done the blah 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 all over the place like a machine gun. No judgment, no guilt. Why did
mm,
I do this? Why did I decide blah 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 blah? And then all of a sudden you're in a living hell. If instead I don't know what this is, but I love it because you chose to love. And now the judgment and the guilt can't register as much because all that is limiting belief. It's going to limit you at the time when you need to be the strongest in your whole life. That's why I go in when it's the worst scenarios for people.
mm,
Always have, I'm the last resort. I'm the person they call because I will be relentless that this is for you. And that is so hard to hear. I mean, talk about saying something that someone doesn't want to hear at the very moment they don't want to hear it. But it's the most important thing that they hear because that's how cherished and loved you are, that you can even transcend this and surmount this. That's how amazing you are. That's how brilliant you are. That's how great you are that you can transcend this. So show up, pay attention, mindfully on purpose, love it, no judgment, no guilt. And then finally, this helps us stay in the moment. Don't attach to results.
mm,
Like our limited mind can say, do this, do this, do this, micromanage this, do this, do this. And then nothing's working. And then we can think nothing's working, but in the background, there's this background hum of grace going on that's carrying you in a flow, taking you in a new direction. And if you're attaching to results and I want it this way, having a temper tantrum, I want it this way,
mm,
then you can't move to the place that you're going, that you're all the momentum's already going, but we stop it with the judgment and the guilt. We stop it by attaching to results. And then we can't get to that state of grace where everything is a miracle or a miracle in the making. I know, terrifically hard to hear. It makes me want to cry to have to say it, but it's the truth with a capital T. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Let's let that land for our listeners. We'll take a quick commercial break and we'll be right back.
Okay.
So, welcome back, everybody. Welcome to the listeners. Welcome to Come Back to Love Radio on Dream Vision 7. So happy to be here with one of my personal spiritual teachers, Maureen Whitehouse. And you have been sharing incredible, powerful, yes, can be difficult to, I always say, a hard pill to swallow
Yeah.
information about how to handle everything that can be and feel challenging to you personally and to to things that are happening in the world and things that are happening in our personal worlds. And one of the things that popped for me as you were sharing the 5 steps, I'm going to say from chaos to creation, or from chaos to the miraculous, to knowing that we are miraculous, divine beings. You were saying something about looking at a situation, going up, and the more difficult, the further up we have to go to look
Exactly.
down, quote unquote, at the situation and why these things are happening in our lives. And I have spent a lot of time in that question over the years, having so many 3 particular people in my life transition from being in this room on the physical planet to the other room, not on the physical planet. And I really needed to look at why the kind of repetition of death and loss over during the first 40 years of my life, let's say. And you said something really beautiful, which was, what can we understand about our experiences that helps us see what we're learning and then gifting not only ourselves, but the world with based on or from the experiences that we had. And I have to say that, when I was very young and my mother died, of course, I didn't have perspective on, or if I did, I squashed the perspective that I had as a young light being.
Mhm.
And even in my early 40s, losing a partner, I still didn't have that perspective until actually meeting with you and working with you. And then over these last, 20 years or however long it's been, I've been able to go way up and look down. I think the directions are not
Yeah,
exact,
exactly.
but we'll say just for linear
An
purposes, go
infinite,
up,
infinite
look
world,
down.
right?
Yeah. And see what the gifts are and in understanding life and death as one continuum. And I want to share something
Mm.
that happened in the very beginning of this conversation. So, one of the things that happened for me in my life after my partner died in 2008 was the week from in between the death and the burial. I had this tingling on my head for the entire week. It was like this tingling, tingling, tingling on my head. And I noticed it, but I didn't notice it. I was, grieving and in confusion and chaos and all the feelings that happen when that happens in life. Eventually, I did get my witness self back on board. And I was like, there's tingling on my head happening. And it's been going on all week. And then after the burial, it stopped. But it didn't stop forever because it happens regularly. And as soon as we began our conversation, it happened again. And so for me, it's just my partner letting me know that he's around, he's here, he's paying attention.
You
And
know, him and the multitude of
amazing.
others, I do believe this is a really important point. I do believe the multitude of others because when we first began speaking, your mom who passed showed up multiple times,
Mm.
and we knew that. And
You mean when we started speaking like
yeah,
in
when we started speaking years ago
2010?
together, and
Yes.
I didn't know your mom on the physical plane, but I sure did know her. She showed up big time when we began speaking. And also, I believe that whenever we're in this world where we're bringing love to light or truth to light or the greater purpose and the higher consciousness to bear in these conversations, that they show up in mass in the invisible. So they're around us now,
Yes.
supporting and supplying, and like beams of light, stars in the sky, sending out the radar to people that pay attention, listen to this. This is important. There's one other thing I wanted to mention. Recently, I volunteer at GBH sometimes for public television, and there was person who came that had just done a movie, the one that won the Academy Award last year for documentary,
Hmm.
30 Days in Mariupol. It's about Ukraine, the war in the Ukraine. And on the panel were people from that film, and one of the women was an editor for the film. Editor. She had to edit war footage of, hospitals being bombed with pregnant women coming out.
Yeah.
And so when she was speaking, she was really articulate and showing and narrating things that she had to edit this film for, like, I think it was 9 months. Talk
Ooh,
about birthing a baby.
yes.
And so at the end, they asked questions, and I raised my hand and I said, what did you do for your mental health while you were editing this film? And she stopped. She kind of like stopped because she was thinking how much about putting this out into the world. She hadn't been thinking about herself in the process of that. She said, well, it's a really good question. My husband, I had earphones on all the time. My husband said he didn't want to hear any of it. He would stay completely opposite in another room so that he could be the levity when I left and things. And it was interesting. I knew why I was asking her that question because it's much more difficult to look at headlines. It's much more difficult to look at things when you're not there. Over these 25 years, I've been called into the front lines, the trenches of people's pain. It's much easier in the present moment to be in a state of holding a state of grace while chaos is happening, because then the chaos reveals itself as something more. When you're watching or listening only to headlines, you get this dramatic experience that's removed enough, but challenging to be able to deal with. I met her in the parking lot on the way out, and she said, thank you for that question. And I said, I actually asked you the question because I knew the answer, that it was harder to be in the position you were in, editing something over and over and over and over again in a painful place, than to be the woman who's getting carried out on the stretcher from the hospital, who's having a baby in the
Mm.
middle of a bomb hospital. Because in that circumstance, there are people coming that are loving and people that are showing up that are trying to help, and there's love in evidence. In the headlines and the snippets, we don't see the love in evidence.
Mm.
So
So
pay attention to that
what did
every.
she say? Yeah, what did she say? That how was she taking care of herself?
She actually did decide to get counseling while she was doing it. She got counseling so she could stay objective. And then she said what I knew also she was doing. She said, I actually made myself often stop and reflect on the bigger purpose of why I was doing this, was to get the word out that we are better than this, that
Mm.
we don't deserve to be doing this to each other on the planet.
Mm.
And so again, she would step herself out and then go have fun times with her husband when he wasn't involved in it, and do things that were out of it to put it in a context that she could understand that it wasn't her whole world and sucking her in.
Yeah, I just want to say briefly before we take our next commercial break that that last piece is so valuable because I think that people sometimes feel guilty taking a break and doing something playful and laughing and having a good time
Mm.
when there's suffering that they perceive on the planet or even, close by to them or their family. And it's so important to take a break.
Step away, have a breath.
Okay.
Remember, you came in with your first breath, you'll leave with your last. If you ever need solace in the middle of a challenging circumstance, just breathe, breathe, and align with the spirit of you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Bernie Siegel said laughter is the best medicine, and
Mm.
laughter is aligning with your highest self and being,
It's that shift in perception you need when you really need to know there's something more than this.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, we'll be right back. Welcome back to Come Back to Love Radio on Dream Vision 7. I'm here with my guest, Maureen Whitehouse, and this has been just so enlightening. I want to invite people to listen to this again, actually. You can find it in the archives on the Dream Vision 7 radio webpage under Come Back to Love. I don't often point people directly to the archives, but I do really think listening to this again and again is going to be helpful in terms of letting these concepts and these truths really, really land so that they can be taken in and actions can actually be taken for
Mhm.
each of our listeners. So thank you so much. I would love to hear. I know you have a special gift to offer those that are listening, and I can't wait to hear about it.
I do. I have a meditation that, I really poured my heart and soul into that so that it would actually give a tangible experience of what we're talking about, that you're a miracle and everything is a miracle or a miracle in the making. And if we can shift to this miraculous perception that takes us in that vertical way, an airlift out of chaos. And this meditation helps people do that. Just listening, it will remind you of your true nature. It will remind you of who you are. I highly recommend to have it like on hand as sort of the emergency blanket. If you
Hmm.
ever find yourself in situations that feel overwhelming or challenging and too hard to realign yourself with this more aligned vertical, I am divine perspective. So it's at the URL, meditation for miracles, meditation, the number four miracles. So www.meditationformiracles.com.
Yes, and if you're on the webpage or the podcast when you're listening in, you will see the link there. You can click on it and download meditation. And I want to say I have downloaded and listened to many, 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 probably hundreds of your meditations over the years, and they have helped me so much in trying times. Actually, I want to say there was just briefly this moment where I had some surgery, and the way that I
Yeah.
soothed myself and realigned myself after that was to listen to your meditation. So thank you,
Mm,
and
that's
highly
great.
recommend the listeners
Nothing
give
fills
in.
my heart more than hearing that, so that we all can collectively realize it isn't trauma, period, drama, period. It's us on the way to recognizing our miraculous nature, that everything is a miracle or a miracle in the making.
Mm. Whew. If you could say that last line one more time, that would be the perfect
Yeah.
ending to our conversation.
Okay, I love that. Remember always you are a miracle and everything is a miracle or a miracle in the making.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Maureen. Thank you to all the listeners. I'm Robyn Vogel from Come Back to Love Radio, and I look forward to being with you next week. Have a beautiful day.
Thank you so much.